Good evening. Welcome to your City Commission meeting. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube and Facebook Live. First item is call to order, Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Okay, first item on the agenda is consideration of previous meeting minutes. To review of the minutes, are there any changes or questions?
I don't have anything.
If not, I would ask for a motion, please.
I move to approve the minutes from August 10th, 2021, regular meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Mr. Preisinger, are you here?
You'll hear a ring. He hasn't called in.
Okay, good. It's 4-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, second consideration ordinances. Second consideration ordinance 8172, demolition assessments.
Madam Mayor and Commission, there have been no changes. Well, there has been one change since first reading. There was a payment of $125 for fees incurred by the city for the property located at 1612 West 7th Street. That assessment has been removed. Otherwise, the assessments presented on first reading remain the same, and it is before the Commission for approval.
Okay. Any questions on the demolition assessments? If not, this takes a roll call vote. Commissioner?
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Next item on the agenda, second consideration ordinance 8173, nuisance assessments.
Madam Mayor and Commission, as the policy report indicates, there have been 5 payments made since first consideration ordinance. I won't go through them all. They're in the policy report, but they are for 735 Metropolitan, 1519 Ohio, 1024 2nd Avenue, 1212 10th Avenue, and 1226 10th Avenue. There obviously are still dozens of assessments that remain, and those will be placed by the city clerk through the county on the tax statements. And so it's before the governing body. If you have any questions, myself or the city clerk can answer them.
Okay, are there any questions, Commissioners? No. If not, this also calls for a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this does call for a roll call. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Geiger Ready Mix request for closure of Maple Street.
This will be handled by Brian Faust, the Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. The item this evening is to close out the proposed ordinance to vacate a portion of Maple Street that was placed on first consideration at the June 22nd meeting, and then to authorize the mayor to sign a right-of-way encroachment agreement. At the June 22nd meeting, a public hearing was held regarding the petition by Geiger Ready Mix requesting the vacation of a portion of Maple Street. At that meeting, it was noted that Geiger and Kansas Gas were working on an agreement, but at that time had not come to a final agreement. The ordinance was placed on first consideration and noted that it would come back for consideration when an agreement was reached. Geiger and Kansas Gas were unable to reach an agreement to allow the vacation of the street. However, a separate right-of-way encroachment agreement between the city and Geiger eliminates the need to vacate the right-of-way. The right-of-way encroachment agreement does allow Geiger to construct a parking lot on the south side of Maple with a portion of the parking lot encroaching into the street right-of-way. The street, however, does remain public. At this time, the city would close out the petition for the request to vacate a portion of Maple Street. The closing of the petition does not require a motion or action from the commission. However, this item does put on record in the official city minutes the petition was withdrawn. The action this evening would be to authorize the mayor to sign the right-of-way encroachment agreement with Geiger Concrete for the construction of a parking lot adjacent to Maple Street.
Okay. Any questions on this item? Okay, so you've withdrawn the request to vacate and close out the proposed ordinance. So there's no action required of us, correct?
Correct.
But we do need to consider the right-of-way encroachment agreement. Are there any questions on that? Or is any other information on that? Okay.
No, ma'am.
If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move to authorize the mayor to sign the right-of-way encroachment agreement with Geiger Concrete for the construction of a parking lot adjacent to Maple Street.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Next item on the agenda, new business. The first item is public comment, and these are items that are not listed on the agenda or receipt of petitions. Public comment is listed to 2 or 3 minutes. No action will be taken by the commission on public comment items. Please state your name and address. A sign-up sheet will be provided. Carla, was there anybody that?
No.
Okay. If not, then we don't have anything. Yes, sir.
Unless there's anybody in there.
Okay. Is there anyone? Okay.
Commissioner Preisinger, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You are.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Preisinger, we're on new business public comment. Is there
Okay.
anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on anything that is not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is employee benefit plan renewal.
That item will be handled by Lana Lanter, our Human Resources Director. That's fine.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, presented for your review and approval this evening is the renewal of our employee benefit coverages for medical, dental, and vision for the new plan year beginning effective December 1. And staff is recommending renewal with all of our current providers, United Healthcare for both our medical and vision, as well as Delta Dental for our dental coverage. We had a very good renewal this year with United Healthcare without much going back and forth. They provided a 4% renewal on the medical with no plan design changes. No changes to either the medical or pharmacy benefits available to our employees, and continuing all 3 levels of coverage available to them. Our Delta Dental plan renewal came in with a flat increase, so no renewal increase, and a guaranteed rate cap for the next 2 years at 5%. And our vision increase came in at a 5% increase this year with a rate cap guarantee for the next 2 years, so no increases on that. All 3 of these plans remain the same current plan design coverage we have in place. And the increases with the new rates are attached with the policy report as well that shows the monthly benefit premiums for the new coverage as well as the current coverage.
You said 4% for health insurance?
For medical, correct.
For medical, how does that compare in the last few years?
About half.
I was thinking it was around 8 before. That's good. That's
We've
good to
looked at a
hear.
couple of years with lower increases, but we also had to make plan design changes in order to accomplish that.
Okay.
So with no plan design changes, we're looking, initial renewal comes in between 8 and 12% usually. The market trend alone, without considering our experience, is averaging roughly about 7.9%. So the fact that we're coming in at half of what market trend is amazing.
Okay.
How long has the city had United Healthcare? Is that,
We've been with them since 2005,
okay.
so it's been a long-term relationship, and they've given, and we've done some give and take over the years to try and accommodate the budget numbers.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, Lana? No?
No.
No?
No.
All right, if not, I would entertain a motion on the employee benefit plan renewal.
I move to approve employee benefit plan renewal.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Preisinger?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
5-0. Okay, next item is public hearing. Public hearing for the topic of exceeding the revenue neutral rate. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Presentation of the exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and Commission, I'll take the lead on this. We also have our city attorney here who is an expert in the legislation related to exceeding the revenue neutral rate. Kansas Senate Bill 13 establishes notice and public hearing requirements for certain taxing subdivisions seeking to collect property taxes in excess of the subdivision's revenue neutral rate. Taxing subdivision, of which the city is one, is prohibited from levying taxes exceeding its revenue neutral rate without first approving a resolution or an ordinance in accordance with the procedure provided by the bill. That's what we're doing here tonight. As presented during the 2022 budget process, the city of Leavenworth intends to exceed the revenue neutral rate as defined by Senate Bill 13. I wanted to take a minute to let the commission and the public know what is included, what the revenue neutral rate does, and essentially why the city is taking the action that is before you tonight. The revenue neutral rate applies to the hearing tonight, the city's portion of the property tax collected in Leavenworth County. The city of Leavenworth collects about 20% of your property tax, total property tax bill. About 20% goes to the city of Leavenworth. The 2022 operating budget reduces the mill levy by 0.66 mills, which is the largest reduction since 2015. At the same time, the city's operating budget is 20% funded by property taxes. In comparison to peer cities and cities in this area, that's extremely low. We are much more reliant upon sales tax, charges for service, franchises, and fees. Those are the fees paid by the franchises that operate in the city: gas, electricity, cable, and such. There are trade-offs for having a lower property tax operating portion of your operating budget, which I'll get to in a minute, as pointed out in a document that I'm going to reference a couple times, and that was the April 13th, 2021 credit analysis done by Moody's Investor Services, which is done every time the city goes to issue public debt. So I'll get into that in a minute. Looking at the mill rate over time, to tell you how we got where we are today. From the downturn starting in 2011, it took the city 7 years to reach back to the total value that we were in 2011. So that happened in 2017. During that time, staff and the commission, there was no more than a 0.3 adjustment in rate. So at that point, what it meant was that we were collecting less property tax revenue, using reserves and making those changes rather than increasing the mill rate. Senate Bill 13 was driven by the ideas that while entities were maintaining their mill rates, they were collecting more revenue as their valuations went up. That is true. Over the last couple of years, the valuations in the city of Leavenworth, in the region, and in the country for the most part, have increased as the housing market has felt this crunch from the lack of inventory created by the housing recession. However, I want to make it clear that the property tax revenue neutral rate is kicked in once one more dollar is collected than it was the previous year. And let me give you some examples. When Starbucks opens, the city would collect property tax paid by a new business. That would kick in the revenue neutral rate, regardless of the status of the rest of the city. So what I wanted to get into tonight briefly is the city's position, why we are here tonight for the city of Leavenworth. The city's general fund includes hundreds of activities and line items. However, there are 3 elements I think it's important to note that make implementing the revenue neutral rate essentially infeasible. The first one is economic development and growth. The second one is maintaining a public safety presence that has access to required equipment and invest in personnel. And the third one is operating costs related to commodities, service deliveries that increase each year, and our reserve position. Economic development. Half of the new property tax revenue collected by the city in 2022 comes to the city and goes directly back out to businesses and property owners whose value of their property has increased. These are done in the form of development agreements. Let me give you an example. Money that is collected by the city from a user such as the Hampton Inn, who removed the blight from the downtown and built in the downtown, the property tax revenue that increases, that triggers the revenue neutral rate hearing, comes to the city and goes right back out. That's the same with the hotels on 4th and Metropolitan, the Hilton Home 2. That's going to be the case with the Price Chopper renovation. And it's also the case for every property that's in the neighborhood revitalization area and has made improvements in their property over the last 15 years that it's been in place. Based on your investment, you get up to 95% property tax rebate for investment that you put in any business or in any home, really, from the river to 10th and from Metropolitan to Spruce. Approximately $163,000 or 50% of the money that we get is already obligated to go back, of the new revenue to go back to those property owners and businesses. TIF districts are the same way, and any time that any city that has a TIF district or an NRA, it would trigger a revenue neutral rate hearing, but the city would not actually realize those funds. Next, I want to talk about growth. In the last 20 months, the city has issued 65 single-family housing permits. We built 65 houses in the last 20 months. Once one of those houses starts paying property tax, if everything else remained the same, it would enact the revenue neutral rate exceeding of the revenue neutral rate. We've put 440 lofts and 152 homes into the city since 2016. I'll talk about that a little bit at the very end of the meeting when we talk about this, the recent census report. The next thing I want to talk about is public safety. The single largest driver of the city's operating budget is public safety. Police and fire make up 1/2 of the entire workforce and account for 67% of the operating budget. The public safety operational costs are budgeted to increase 6.21% in 2020, which is equivalent to $692,183. Cost increase are related to salary and benefits, commodities, technology, and equipment. The public safety increase costs alone account for more than 3 times the increase in property tax revenue. In order to maintain personnel and equipment, an increase in expenditures of these departments are likely to occur every year. This is the first time I'm going to refer to the Moody's report. Moody's sets the city's bond rating, which is the financial document that determines the rates that we get as we issue debt for projects like our pavement management program, when we built animal control, or any other debt the city issues. The Moody's note says, related to pensions and OPEB, which are other post-employment benefits, that the city has consistently made its required contributions to the plan in accordance with statutory requirements. This refers to CAPERS and KP&F. And contributed $1.9 million in fiscal year 2019, or 8.5% of the operating fund revenue. For the 5th consecutive year, the city's contribution exceeded the calculated tread water indicator, which indicates the measure that the annual government contribution required to prevent us from not reaching our net pension liability. Moody's, in closing on the pension item, says, we expect that the city will adequately incorporate rising pension costs to its budget. We know that pension costs, KP&F, that the city has no control over, will increase every year, KP&F and CAPERS. The other note is, along with property tax abatements and public safety costs, there are a number of other local government costs that are part of the general fund and are forecasted to increase in 2022. Information technology is a huge driver of increasing city costs. IT costs are related to software licenses that increase every year. IT costs are related to data storage, cybersecurity, data security, and technology for internal and external registration functionality, whether that's Parks and Recreation Department or whether that's what we have to do in accordance with the KBI and the FBI to ensure that our network is secure. Public safety salary survey implementation. The city did a 5-year implementation of a study to ensure that our public safety and our city employees are compensated at the level of peer agencies. We implemented that over 5 years to the cost. That increases the starting pay for our police officers, and as we increase that, it increases the officers above them so we avoid compaction. The cost in 2022 to implement that is $93,491. 2 other notes: consumer price, a key inflation guide to inflation, rose 5.4% in June, and that figured heavily in our budgeted expenditures on commodities and line items in 2022. The city has to buy our stuff on the market like everybody else. Building materials, construction materials, all have increased, and that's shown in the budget. Fuel costs are also averaging 98 cents higher than this time last year, so our 22 budget for fuel across the city for our police cars, our fire trucks, our parks vehicles, our public works vehicles, our code enforcement vehicles will show up as an increase. Finally, I want to talk about reserves. Reserves are a hard thing to explain sometimes because it looks like cash on the balance sheet. The city in the Moody's report showed $5.2 million in reserves. That sounds like a large number. Let me give you a little bit of information about how Moody's sees the city's current reserve target. The available fund balance of $5.2 million is 27.7% of revenue. Moody's says while this is satisfactory and ahead of the city's formal 2-month policy, it is much lower than the AA2 national median. So Moody's would like to see our reserve position higher. A decline in reserves to lower levels than peers could lead to negative credit pressure. And then finally, Moody's gives us factors that could lead to an upgrade in our credit rating, and that's material growth in the fund balance, and factors that could lead to a downgrade, and that's a declining fund balance. So I know sometimes it's frustrating to see a public entity have a strong fund balance, but it is absolutely crucial as we strive to meet best practices by the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, GASB, and of course Moody's Investor Services. In conclusion, property taxes do play a small yet crucial role in the core operations of the city of Leavenworth. The revenue neutral rate exceeding here is driven by growth and driven by the abatements that we have put in place to attract, recruit, and retain businesses in the city of Leavenworth. And that was the summary from the budget presentation that we made just recently.
Right. I have a question about, you said 2-month policy on reserve. What does that mean we have 2 months to?
So that's the city's policy, and we've exceeded that, our own internal policy, but Moody's still says that it is, in their words, not mine.
That's 2 months worth of operating?
Yeah, and we have exceeded that, but we are lower than the AA2, which is our bond rating, national median. So we're doing well. We're meeting our policy. Moody's would like to see it a little higher.
It still seems low because most nonprofits, which I've always worked for nonprofits, was 6 months to a year.
Yeah, we're probably closer to
2
3 or
months
3.5 months. We exceed our policy, but we're still not to the level of AA2. We have an extremely high bond rating. And so AA2 peers are essentially the best financial run entities. So we are a little bit below our peers in the AA2 rating, but we are healthy.
Okay. Questions? Before we turn it over to the public. Commissioner Preisinger, do you have anything?
No, thanks, Mr. Kramer, for outlining all that. I remain proud of how Leavenworth, the city finance director, city manager, and the entire staff has managed our budget. Also proud that Leavenworth has the lowest mill levy rate of any of the major cities in Leavenworth County, lower than Lansing, lower than Bayshore, lower than Tonganoxie, and not just by a little bit, appreciably lower, 20 and 30% lower. So the fiscal management and the fiscal responsibility our staff has exhibited over the years and even this year is extraordinary. And I laud their efforts, and I welcome the meetings that we had, full day of budget meetings, to go through these items almost line by line and fully understand it. And I support what the recommendation might be tonight. Looking forward to voting on it.
Commissioner Griswold.
Could I ask a question of the city manager?
Of course.
Just talk about the kind of the holistic view of the city's budget. I mean, you mentioned reserves, and we're in pretty good shape right now with respect to reserves. What about 10 years ago? Where were we in terms of reserves?
So at the start of the housing recession, the city was healthy. The city had about a $3 million reserve. Over the course of the recession, as the total value of the city decreased, as sales tax revenue decreased, the city was down to about $350,000 in reserves, which is untenable, but that was a decision we made. We also cut dramatically from staff. We cut multiple department heads and some operations that have taken a while to get back. And then it was in the last couple years that we reached back to our fund balance level, which is probably the only reason we maintained a AA2 rating last year. It's more, it's half art, half science, how Moody's determines your bond rating. They look at the metrics, but they also look at trends and factors. And I think our fund balance was a strong factor in keeping our AA2 rating.
So sometimes it is problematic just to take a 1-year snapshot. I mean, it is, I think, more credible to look 5 or 10 years over the course of a city's budget history with regard to the health of the city. And in turn, we obviously, with our high bond rating, we have a good credit rating, and we are advantaged with respect to not paying out as much debt.
Right,
correct?
interest rate, yeah.
Yeah, for a city of our size, we have a really good bond rating. And then we have to continue to look at trends as well. You know, as I mentioned, the increasing pension liability that is
Right.
statutory, not a cost that the city has any control over.
I have one more question. What do we use? We issue debt and our bond rating for what type of work within the city?
So the primary use of issuance of debt is the annual $2 million that we issue for pavement management. So the better our bond rating is, the more that we pay in, that we get in principal, or less we have to pay in interest. We also use it for projects like the Thornton Street project. We issue debt for that. The 10th Street project in front of the high school that we did, animal control facility, city facilities in general.
And some of the larger stormwater.
Yeah, there's a project I'm getting ready to start at 2nd and Chestnut. That's south of the Justice Center, and we did bond that project to be able to do that whole project at once.
Right, because it's too large.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and if no other questions, Commission, let's open it up to public comments. Are there any public comments? Please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Maren Hart, and I live at 732 Michigan Avenue. Everyone in this room and those who are watching these proceedings knows that this commission plans to raise our property taxes around 3% over the revenue neutral rate. These proceedings are merely a formality to be in compliance with SB 13. Raising taxes on the people of Leavenworth is precisely why the 3 members of this commission who are up for re-election will be voted out on November 2nd. I urge everyone who is listening or watching these proceedings to remember this meeting and vote for Maren Hart, Ed Hingula, and Griff Martin for an effective change in the city of Leavenworth.
Well, thank you for campaigning at our meeting.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would care to make a comment this evening? Is he okay over there?
I know, is he driving?
Commissioner Preisinger, you might want to put it on mute. You're creating some noise there.
Okay, yeah,
Put it on mute, please.
yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, it's time to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I move to close the public hearing.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Heard.
Okay, 5-0, thank you. Okay, next item is consider resolution B 2288, approval to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Are there any other comments or questions on this issue?
Yeah, I can't speak for the entire commission, but I strongly believe that this commission does not plan to raise property taxes. I know that's definitely my
That's
stance.
not, yes.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
correct.
plan to raise property taxes, and I am one commissioner that's up for re-election as well, so.
I'm not, but we're not raising property
No, we're
taxes. Thank you. All right, is there any other comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve, consideration resolution B-2288, approval to exceed revenue neutral rate.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 5-0, thank you very much. Next item, Resolution B 2289, Camp Leavenworth 2021 Special Event Request for Street Closure for Temporary Liquor License.
This item will be handled by our city clerk, Carla Williamson.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this item is to approve a resolution to allow the special use at the Camp Leavenworth Festival to close streets and allow motor vehicle traffic, so that we can request a temporary liquor license. The following streets, we'll close an area downtown that will allow free flow of people without, worry of vehicle or traffic or anything. The temporary liquor license also will allow for alcohol-friendly area during the festival, during those boundary areas. So before you is a resolution that is required by the state to approve the special event and allow the city to obtain a temporary liquor license for the festival.
Okay. Any questions on this?
This is all wrapped up into Resolution B
B
2289.
2289, with the various street closures. If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution B 2289 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger. He's on mute.
I think you're still on mute, Commissioner Preisinger.
I don't see the light, I don't think he's there.
Okay.
It's not there.
Go ahead.
Aye.
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 4-0. Thank you very much. Next item, Resolution B 2290, set public hearing for unsafe and dangerous structure at 2201 Magnolia Drive, damaged by fire.
This will be handled by our Chief Building Inspector, Hal Burdette.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening, sir.
As you just stated, Resolution 2290 is to set a public hearing for the damaged structure at 2201 Magnolia Drive. Property was damaged on July 3rd. City received a check from the insurance company because the estimated damage exceeded 75% of the insured value. So the public hearing will give us the opportunity to discuss with the owners their plans, which their plans are to repair, and set a time frame for them.
Okay. Any questions on this property? I'm sure you all have seen it.
Yeah, I know. Didn't they already start working on it?
Yes, they applied for a permit last week, and we actually issued one last
Okay,
week.
yeah.
I didn't issue it, it wasn't issued at the time that I wrote this, but it is now.
Okay.
Okay, so we still need a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on this? All right, we have a motion.
I move to approve Resolution B 2290, set public hearing for unsafe or dangerous structure at 2201 Magnolia Drive, damaged by fire.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. He's still not here.
No.
Okay, Commissioner Criswell.
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Next item on the agenda, consider bids for plastic trash bags.
Once again, our Public Works Director will handle this item.
Once again,
Good evening.
they do the trash bags.
The item this evening is to approve the annual trash bag purchase for consumer distribution. The Solid Waste Division purchases roughly 1.15 million plastic refuge bags each year, which works out to 23,000 rolls. Bags are also provided for spring cleanup, new customers, sold at the city clerk's office, and used by other departments. On average, we distribute about 22,500 rolls each time. 2 vendors did submit bids this year, with the low bidder meeting our city specifications. Staff recommends that the City Commission approve the bid by Central Polybag Corporation for 23,000 rolls at a total cost of $144,900.
So we went over our budget a little bit.
Correct, we had budgeted $130,000 for it.
Okay.
Looks like the bags were more expensive this
Thanks,
year.
Rhonda.
Right.
Yeah, everything's going up.
And this is a new vendor?
Yeah, we have not used this vendor before.
Yeah.
There was quite a bit of difference between the 2 vendors as far as the price that they offered.
Correct.
$6.30 by Central Poly and
And
$11.20 by.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Wonder,
Are they bigger?
are they, why, I mean, why is that, you know?
Actually, I'm not sure why the price is so much different, but the higher bid did not even come close to meeting our specs. And we actually do tests. We test the mill thickness, and we also do a basically a hang test. We make sure that it holds 60 pounds while in the air, so.
We think the
Sort
price,
of like Hesky.
Yeah, jump up and down in the bags.
you think the price increase, byproduct of what's been happening over the last 18 months with the pandemic and supply chains and things like that?
Didn't specifically ask, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Okay, well, looks like it is what it is. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the qualified bid by Central Poly Bag Corporation for 23,000 rolls of bags at a total cost of $144,900. The city commission, that's my motion. That's
Okay,
my notion.
second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Okay. First consideration ordinance rezoning 410 South Second from I-1 to Central Business
I
District.
think you skipped number 10.
Oh, I did.
A Street.
I am sorry. Approval of bid from Denton Excavating for emergency demolition of 703 North 8th Street.
Both of the next two items will be handled by Julie Hurley, Director of Planning and Community
Okay,
Development.
thank you, Madam Mayor. As you said, this is approval for a bid from Denton Excavating for the emergency demolition of 703 North 8th Street. This property was damaged pretty heavily by fire on May 30th of this year. It was a 2-story single-family brick home. It was owned by the New Christie Minstrels Foundation. Due to the extent of the damage, the city engineer's office took a look at this and rendered it a dangerous structure and an immediate hazard. City ordinance does allow staff to commence demolition immediately on structures that are deemed an immediate hazard by staff. So we did undertake that process. We did attempt to contact the owner by mail and were not successful in that. We didn't hear back from them throughout this process. So staff contracted with Denton Excavating to complete the work. Demolition took place on July 28th of this year in the amount of $46,250. And so we just need a motion to approve that expenditure for that emergency demolition.
Okay. Sounds good. Any questions? Ms. Hurley?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So eventually, will this show up as a special assessment against the property owner?
Yes, this will be assessed against the property.
At some point in the future. Okay, that's all I wanted to
Okay.
determine.
Anything else?
No.
If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the bid from Denton Excavating for emergency demolition of 703 North 8th Street.
Not to exceed.
I don't, Matt, point of, it's really not a bid, is it?
No, it's approving the expenditure.
Oh,
Yeah.
expenditure?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
Yeah,
reading
do
the
it
wrong.
again.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, motion to approve the expenditure.
Do it again.
I move to approve the expenditure of $46,250 for the emergency demolition of the property located at 703 North 8th Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second, okay.
It's been moved and seconded.
I was reading off here.
Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
I did too. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Now we move on to first consideration ordinance rezoning 410 South Second.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is our request to rezone 410 South Second Street from I-1 Light Industrial to CBD Central Business District. The property is home of C&H Plumbing Supply currently, which the owners are in the process of retiring and closing down that business, and so the property has been purchased. The new owners are intending to convert the large warehouse portion into a mini storage facility. And then there's a smaller retail portion of the building that fronts on 2nd Street, and they're intending to turn that into a cigar lounge. So there are no major proposed changes to the exterior of the building. Some cosmetic work to bring the building back to spruce it up a little bit. Some minor changes there, nothing too major. The Planning Commission did consider this item at their August 2nd meeting and voted 6-0 to recommend approval. This property is also in the Leavenworth Industrial Historic District, so it had to be reviewed by the Leavenworth Preservation Commission. They did that at their August 4th meeting and voted 4-0 to recommend or to approve the project from their end as well. So one of the new owners is in the audience. He can give you a little more information if you have any questions for him. And if you have any questions for me, I can answer those now.
Sure, I'd like to hear from the new owner.
Okay.
Sounds interesting.
It does. My name is Jake Ross, and I'm with Arden Investment Group. My business partner is unable to be here, so he's on shift today. But whatever questions you might have, I'd like to try to answer them the best I can.
I think it's interesting. We're gonna have, we haven't had a cigar lounge for years. We had one years ago, but
Did
it
you?
sounds interesting.
So I
Yeah.
didn't know about the previous one.
It was on Delaware Street.
That was a hookah, wasn't it?
So this is,
No,
No.
no, it was a cigar lounge. No hookah, no.
Yeah, no, I remember it. It's been a while,
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyway, yes, sir, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, I guess I also recently purchased, actually, it's been about a year now, the Broadway Liquor. And so we have taken that old humidor inside, or excuse me, the old refrigerator when it used to be a grocery store and converted it into a walk-in humidor. A lot of the feedback we've been getting from customers is that, you know, just the idea of bringing a cigar lounge back. So maybe back in the day, that previous one was maybe not as something to do then, but it
Yeah.
seems to be kind of a more of a popular, trendy thing to do.
I think it sounds
So,
interesting, okay.
And the idea is to just kind of keep it as rustic. If you all have been into that C&H Supply, or that address there, the.
Yes, I
Owens Road
have,
stuff,
lots of
so,
times. Uh-huh.
It used to be a big manufacturer plant, and so it's got a lot of neat history in it, and the idea is to try to keep as much of that as we can, and keep the walls all original and just.
We're glad you keep in the old building. It's
Yeah,
nice.
so, and then like Ms. Hurley said, just update the front outside, kind of get it to look like the stove lofts have already done a very nice job down there, so.
Well, good. When do you expect to have it open or have it
As
done?
soon as you guys can tell me.
Oh, okay.
I've been gambling here, so.
A lot of people
we've got
watch
the-
us on television, so
Yes,
you're
we've got
telling
the,
them now.
we've got the building purchased. I've already got the quotes out. I just can't accept anything until I get
Sure.
approval.
Okay,
Because a lot of them are wanting, you know, down payment, and I'm not willing
Yeah,
to go
do
that
that.
much further into the hole, so. Anyways, I would guess probably in the next 6 to 12 months.
Wonderful.
Because just one of the mini stores, just in the materials there, as you guys heard of the trash bags, they're 6 months out before they can once I put it down payment, before they can even get materials here and in.
Yeah.
So everybody's behind, and so
That's what I
I'm
hear.
at least 6 months out before I can even get materials. But then our first step would try to be getting that retail front side going, the cigar lounge, so.
that's great. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you
Yeah.
for your
Thank you.
investment in our community.
yeah, thank you.
One
Yes,
question.
sir.
In terms of the mini storage, how many clients or customers do you anticipate once you?
I think I've got 110 units just on the inside, and the idea there is to also bring in some HVAC unit, so to make it kind of a climate control,
Yeah.
which I think would be, you know, needed in that area with all the.
Probably a
apartments.
Probably a pretty,
Yeah.
probably a pretty good place for
A
it.
good place,
Um,
yeah.
And it's just a very large footprint, so a lot of, and this is a total retrofit company that comes in and basically takes the footprint that you have and they can, you know, make whatever works in there. And so, with that said, again, keeping everything, trying to keep it all as original as possible and then just get the units in there, so.
Great. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for your time.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, exciting.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments on this issue? No. Okay, I would entertain a motion. Oh, no, we don't. This is consensus. First consideration, so this is a consensus. Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes,
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 Yes.
yes.
4-0. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the claims for August the 7th, 2021 through August 20th, 2021 in the amount of $1,254,287.97. Net amount for payroll number 16, effective August 13th, 2021 in the amount of $383,000, $308.22, no police and fire pension.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Okay. Before we go to executive session, is there, I think we go around the table and then do the executive session, or? Yes.
Good idea.
Okay. Mr. Kramer?
I do have a couple things. Commissioner Griswold asked if I could give an update for Price Chopper project. So I spoke to the project representative this week, and he provided a couple notes. They're shooting for a grand opening in mid-September, and as we've heard a couple times tonight, he indicates that navigating the shipping issue with building materials and building material shortage has been a significant challenge in completing the project. The store does have several of the upgrades complete. Deli, still working on the bakery, the meat departments. He says the new equipment is eco-friendly and energy efficient, and it will offer many other additional choices related to frozen and fresh food. Parking lot has been upgraded with lighting, new pavement, and landscaping, and that he's excited about the grand opening in mid-September. Details to follow.
Well, I have to say that the changes in the store are huge. I mean, makes it look so much larger what they've done in there.
It does.
And
They
able to see
utilize,
anything,
they utilize the
everything.
space better.
A couple other quick things. I did want to mention this in the revenue neutral hearing. The census report came out this week. The data dumps will happen over the next 8 months, so we don't have a breakdown of demographics. We don't have a lot of the in-depth data, but we saw some of the big picture data, and Leavenworth Times covered it a little bit. So the city of Leavenworth has grown at 6% over the last 10 years. The county has grown at 7.6%. I think that's huge. The city of Leavenworth is now well over 37,000 at 37,351. Some of the reasons for that, 440 lofts put in place in the last 5 years, 152 single-family building permits in the last 5 years. With many more on the rise. So I think it's a good news story for the city of Leavenworth that we're growing, that people are moving here, and that the community is a vibrant and great place to be. Two other quick notes. I saw in the paper today the comment that Camp Leavenworth is still planned to go on. That is the case unless there's commission action at any point. I've been in constant consultation with Jamie Miller at the health department. We've talked about numbers and certainly mindful of all that. Still have a full month till Camp Leavenworth, but the plan is to go forward with Camp Leavenworth. And then finally, I did want to note that the budget hearing is September 7th, so that will be the night that we actually approve the city's budget, just in case there was confusion between this is the first year of the revenue neutral rate and the budget hearing. Fully out there, the budget hearing is on September 7th.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Griswold.
The only comment that I have is that I got a call from a constituent today in the neighborhood to the north of Leavenworth High School, where we've had reports in recent months and really in the last year or two of people speeding and other traffic violations. And this constituent was very happy because Officer Cole Brummer and one of his officers was out there talking to this constituent, and about that time there was somebody who came speeding by and they were able to issue a ticket. But I mean, I think the point is we have an active traffic unit. They are not just patrolling the main thoroughfares. They're in some of these neighborhoods that unfortunately we have too many people breaking the traffic law. So Chief, just keep up the good work, and my thanks to Officer Brummer and his traffic unit, and we just need to keep it up. It doesn't get as much visibility as 4th Street, 20th Street, but it's still important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner,
No, I
Leonard?
didn't have anything. No.
Yes, sir.
I guess I just want to inform the citizens about a resource in our community, Heartland Regional Alcohol and Drug Assessment Center. Is your one-stop resource at Heartland Radad. Our goal is to match you with the resources that best suit your individual needs. They provide referrals and treatment services for substance abuse, as well as assist you in connecting you to resources for mental health, housing, or the other recovery-oriented systems of care. Start your journey to recovery, schedule an appointment, or learn more about the services offered by calling 913-789-0951. I spoke with the mayor. We would, once she gives the approval and set a date, would definitely love the director to come down and inform the citizens about the other services that they offer as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Is there any point in the future that they may have a local office here?
Oh, yes, ma'am, thank you for that. Yes, they currently have a local office at 432 Walnut.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we need.
Yeah, and services
We
are
need, that's
free.
great.
I don't know if you made contact with them, Chief, yet, but I know she's trying to make her rounds and introduce herself to the community leaders as well as different departments.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. The only thing, I was invited to, as mayor, was invited to participate in the roundtable discussion with all the medical directors of the major hospitals in Kansas City. And you might have seen some of that on the news the other night,
Yeah.
but they are struggling. I know some of them have turned away out-of-state patients that had been brought in before. Some of them are turning down even out of city. And in the past, in the last pandemic swing that we had, there were not so many children. So, you know, during that pandemic, we relied heavily on Children's Mercy Hospital to be able to be an overflow for that. Now Children's Mercy is full as well. So it's really been a struggle for the hospitals, for shortage of staff, and you know, there is a cure for this, and that's a vaccine. So I just continue to encourage everyone to please get the vaccine. I think there's been an uptick in the number of vaccines that have been given lately, as we see what kind of problems this is causing for our children. So thank you for that.
Madam Mayor, can I make
Yes.
one comment?
Yes.
Just the yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that the FDA gave the full approval for the Pfizer vaccine, which is significant because there's been surveys done that say 30% of the people were waiting on full authorization. Well, that may be a little bit high, but regardless, it's an opportunity for people to step forward and get the vaccine, and I think that full authorization by Pfizer of the Pfizer vaccine is certainly a good step in the right direction.
Okay. We have an executive session coming up. Okay, everybody had their say tonight. So if you could go to that, somebody make a motion, how long are we gonna need for this?
15 minutes.
So 7:52 to,
Do you want a
What is that?
5-minute break to get in there and get settled?
yeah,
So we can come back in here at 56.
8:10, 8:12,
8:11.
8:11. Okay. Okay, somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to recess into executive session to discuss security measures pursuant to the discussion of matters related to security measures, private property or persons, exception per KSA 75-4319B12D. The open meeting to resume in the City Commission chambers at, did we say?
8:11.
8:11 p.m. by the clock in the City Commission chambers. City Manager Paul Kramer and Police Chief Pat Kittens are requested to be present during the executive session.
Okay. All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, please begin.
Aye.
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 Okay, we're in executive session. Is there any other business? I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, please begin voting. Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 We are adjourned, thank you.